What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Gabe Yanez and I, we are joined by Nicky Rod, the black belt slayer, the $1 million grappler, the natty king, and you are here to hear it first, man. I'm so fired up to have you on the show. Husband, father, just badass grappler. Nicky, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, man. It's good to chat with y'all.
Dude, man, I was ready for that one. So I think a good place to start, dude, is like, talk me through being the first ever grappler to win $1 million. Like, that's a huge deal. Like, not like a moderate prize purse. That's like the biggest prize purse I've ever heard of in any grappling sport, specifically, or like for those in the fitness space or any of that kind of stuff, dude. Like, $1 million is real money. So like, talk us through CGI. What was it like winning $1 million, and like, especially getting it, you know, because you and Craig have known each other for so long. Like, I imagine there was just a lot of build up, dude. So love to kind of break that down to start off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the feeling of it was very, it's just great. I mean, you know how it is to win something that you've been working towards for, having a long camp or working towards for years. Yeah, it was pretty surreal. But I do feel like the hardest thing to do in the tournament was to not think about the money, right? Like, I feel like if you're just focusing at that end goal, it kind of takes you away from the moment itself. So I really had to go into this tournament, not think about the money, and just kind of like show appreciation, show gratitude for the moment at hand, and just kind of give it my all.
And I guess, do you see CJI? Like, I get what you're saying there, by the way. Like, you couldn't put too much emphasis on the money. It had to be about like kind of like the journey. Because how many fights did you have to actually win? Was it like 4, I think?
Yep, it was 4 matches over 2 days.
4 matches over 2 days. And so do you see CGI? Because they just announced, if I'm not mistaken, a little bit ago. For those of you who are unfamiliar, ADCC was like the biggest grappling event. It happened every 2 years. CGI comes around. It's called the Craig Jones Invitational. And they put out the biggest prize purse. And Nicky was the first person to ever win that. Actually, there's 2 winners, but 2 different weight classes, and Nicky was one of them. Yep. Now that they announced they're going to have year 2. So do you think anything's going to change, or is it still the same prize purse? Like, what's happening in the sport of grappling in that sense?
So I don't know exactly about the prize purse. I'm assuming it's going to be $1 million or around there. But a format change, they released it. It's going to be teams. So teams of 5. So 5 versus 5. And winner take all.
Team grappling. Wait, so how does that work? Like, it's 1 versus 1, and then you just like eliminate. Is that the way it goes?
Okay, so it's quintet style. So what that means is that if there's no submission, both guys exit the mat and the next two come on. If there is a submission, you stay on. So you could potentially have one guy submit an entire team.
Oh, shit. Mm-hmm. Okay. Dude, that's going to be exciting, man. All right. I'm fired up for that. So you got CJI, I guess, coming up that'll be like whatever else.
August.
Do you have any grappling tournament? Do you have anything happening competition-wise before that?
Yeah, I might have 2 competitions. It's kind of up in the air right now. If it does happen, it'll be in March and April. And yeah, just kind of go from there. Like, these things come on pretty quick. Like, sometimes you have a 12-week notice. Sometimes it's like a 4-week notice. So, just kind of got to always stay in shape and just be in the gym, improving and just going along with it.
As an outsider looking into the sport a little bit, obviously, since Jason's super, super involved, does something like that, which sounds super entertaining, how you said the format was going to be of the CGI Invitational, does something like that, do you feel, takes away from, I don't know, the tradition, the purity of like the sport? Does that even matter? Is it really just about like, getting eyeballs and growing the sport by putting out a good show? Or is there a balance there that something like that, maybe in your opinion, isn't yet too much, but when you get to the point where it's just kind of entertainment for entertainment's sake, and it's gone so far from what the sport is meant to be? And I have no opinion here because I'm not in it, but I'm curious kind of where you stand on that.
Well, I think initially the sport was meant to be the best means of self-defense, or the best means of of attacking, let's say, maybe I'm saying this wrong, the best means of winning a fight, assuming you only have the opportunity to train one thing, you should either do jiu-jitsu or wrestling over a over like a boxing or a kung fu, or that's kind of how jiu-jitsu started. But nowadays, because it's getting bigger, we found a way to make it profitable. And yeah, I mean, and as a professional athlete, I think the more people that watch it, the more entertaining it is for the outsiders. The more people that watch it and don't train, the more it's going to benefit us. Because how many people, watch professional NFL, but don't really set foot out there, So previously, jiu-jitsu had a ton of fans that also trained, but now we're getting in the realm of having people that don't even train mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu, but also watch the grappling scene. So I think it's beneficial to everyone.
Yeah, man. I mean, I can speak to that 100%. We talked about this on a episode of the podcast when CGI was happening, because I don't participate in the sport yet. I always say yet, but I watched some of those matches for two reasons. One, how much it was popping up on my social media, how many people were sharing like links to the matches, the fact that I didn't have to pay anything. Because I've tried to watch before, like Jason's been like, hey, go check out this match. And it's like, I kind of like subscribe to this thing. And like, that's enough for me, like not to want to do it. The fact that it was on YouTube, I watched it for that. And dude, I couldn't open Instagram and not see highlights. And then the last thing was the fact that it had the walls. It felt like there was just so much action happening. Like it was like nonstop action. So I can speak to it because I watched a bunch of it, and it was kind of because of those reasons.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we definitely had a bunch of aspects that were quite interesting. In I think a major part, like you said, was the wall. It just gave it a different vibe, almost like two men enter, one man leaves, kind of deal. What's the old movie Bloodsport or something like that? It was kind of like that kind of deal. And again, yeah, like we did great promoting on social media, specifically Mr. Craig Jones, a phenomenal promoter, and yeah, he just did a great job with it. And then we have the B Team platform as well. We're closing in on 500,000 subscribers, so we're able to pump it as much as possible on there. And again, like you said, having it free on YouTube was a major factor because you don't have to pay for it. So now instead of hundreds of thousands, we have millions of people tuning in, and that's a big aspect. I feel like a lot of people look to monetize too much in the sport of jiu-jitsu, and it kind of held us back for a while. But now we have a platform like this that anyone can watch for free, and it's just multiplied the sport tremendously.
I just want to, one more thing is kind of like an outsider and definitely a fan, like a growing fan of the sport. One thing that I've always said, I think would really help the CrossFit scene, where we come from and a lot of our listeners are familiar, is the storylines and like the rivalry and the shit talk. Like I've always told Jason, like, I think CrossFit has almost been like too positive. Like it's too much like everyone's rooting for the guy that's like, finishing up the workout. Like you kind of like need a bad guy. You need guys that are like talking smack about each other. That makes people want to eventually watch the match. Because I know that there's been a lot of shit talk in the sport and a lot of it, that you've been involved in. Do you feel like, is that just natural? Do you kind of like play that up a little bit because that, hey, there's a reason Conor McGregor fills seats because he does that. He plays the part. Is that kind of a part of how you've approached the sport, or is that just kind of like, hey, this is who I am and it's been fun to do it?
Yeah, there's definitely nothing sorry, there's like I'm in a parking lot, somebody's slamming on the horn. I definitely have not played up a part. If I've said anything towards anyone, it was because it was true and authentic, and I felt like it needed to be said. Yeah, I don't try to do anything or be anyone that I'm not. So if I say something, I mean it, and if I don't say anything, I probably mean it more.
I think that's where the sport can go though in the future. I love the way like the CGI. I have a question on the mats. Do you think that schools will start adding in some type of walls like that? Like, was that different to compete with the walls instead of, because in the past, right, if people were kind of like grappling and they went out of balance, it would be reset. And when you get reset, it was kind of funky. Now you didn't have that. So like, did you guys have to train for that? And then do you think schools will start incorporating it, or you think, nah, it's a fringe case, they're not going to start incorporating it? Or what was your take on that?
Well, we've definitely seen gyms and heard of gyms that are they're implementing the slant, the 45-degree wall. In our gym at B Team here in Austin, we built our own wall to train on and to just put hours in against it and along it. If you want to be a professional gym, or you want to develop professional grapplers, it's probably a good idea to build your own wall. Especially because the CJI tournament is the leading tournament in the world of jiu-jitsu. If you win that, you're the best in the world. You're getting the most valuable prize. And to kind of back up what you said, the slanted walls, that was a big issue previously in jiu-jitsu, is where guys go out of bounds. The reset is kind of wonky. So, you kind of have to game it. Like, guys are always trying to get the edge wherever they can. So upon a reset, if you have a great position, maybe the reset isn't nearly as good as it should have been. So you take the ref's interference out when you have the slanted walls. There are absolutely no resets. There's two guys in there, and the only reset essentially is when the period ends. But then again, you have 3 5-minute rounds that you can continue to go from there.
Yeah. I thought the 3 5, I just think, CJI was such a great expression of how you took something that was working okay, right? But maybe had some areas of improvement with the walls or with maybe the different time domains or whatever. And I think they really built on that. So I was a huge fan of what happened this last year. I'm excited for the future. Has things changed for you, like being a pro grappler, professional athlete, winning, I think it's fair to say millions of dollars, right? Like that's a huge deal. And then having your son, right, getting married. Do you feel like you just got like extra juiced up when you had your son? Because dude, you've been on a tear ever since. Just smashing it, online, in person, everything. Because your son now is, if I'm not mistaken, like how old is he? 6 months? Yeah. So how's that changed for you being a pro athlete and then trying to be a pro dad?
Yeah, I think it's just been the perfect storm for me. Like I had, we have my son. And yeah, now I think I'm almost 7 years into jiu-jitsu. So I'm now understanding how everything kind of ties together, and the techniques I've been working on for years are now kind of, they're not just moves that I know, but they're reactions. So I'm able to enter that flow state, get in my zone when I compete much more, as opposed to needing to think about the techniques. So I think I've just developed much more over the years. And yeah, being is great. For me, you could even, it's better than winning the $1 million as far as like the gratitude that I feel, having a son and being a father. But when it comes to competing, it's something I love to do. I'll continue to do. And I think just winning that money just makes my life a bit more comfortable. Like I can really focus on getting better, being the best version of myself when it comes to grappling, when it comes to life. I don't necessarily need to compete for money. I can pick my own price and compete as I want. I think just the comfortability that the money gave me just helps me to propel it better. And for me, CJI was just a perfect storm. It was right at the time where I knew a lot of great moves. I also had a good coach. We had Coach Dima. He's a German guy. He ran our camp. We had a few other guys that really help out our camp, like Joseph Chen and our guy Kenta Iwamoto, which is a Japanese grappler. And we had a bunch of guys in. We had great minds in the room. We're kind of helping each other out. So it really helped my peak when it came to the CJI tournament and then the events afterwards as well.
Go ahead, Gabe. Yeah.
Does the risk reward kind of like calculation for you change at all being a dad? I think I know the answer to this given what I've known about grappling the sport, but is there anything about that kind of changes now that you have that level of responsibility, or not really?
No, when I'm competing, I don't even think about anything, like I only just focus what's in front of me. Like a thought of like tomorrow or the days before doesn't cross my mind. I don't hear the crowd. I don't think about anyone or anything besides the task at hand. So even if I wanted to kind of take my foot off the gas, I couldn't, because I'm just reacting at that point. And I think that's when I can be my best, when I'm just kind of in the zone, in that flow state, and just getting after it.
Yeah. I mean, jiu-jitsu's given me a lot in my life. It came to me at a really important time in my life, and it gave me a lot of clarity and a lot of like mental focus that I was able to take in other areas of my life. Do you feel like jiu-jitsu over the last like 7 years, and then wrestling before that, and your life, do you think that what lessons from jiu-jitsu do you think have transferred, like now that you have a son, now that you're married, like, do you see things differently a little bit now of like the lessons that the mats taught, or is it still the same? I mean, obviously you're super competitive, you're at the highest level right now, but I'm curious if you're seeing that correlation the way I do, where like every time I hit the mats, I come off a better man and I show up better. Do you still feel that same way, or do you think it's just like they're two separate things for you?
I think I've just always been the same person. One thing I can say though is that I go out of my way now not to get sick. Now, what I mean is that if there's people in the gym that are like have a cold or whatever, before I had a kid, I'd be like just train. Don't be a punk. You know what I mean? And I would train myself when I was like, if I get sick or something, I'd be like, yeah, I'm just going to train. I'm just going to sweat it out. But now I'm a bit more responsible. I'm like, oh, I have a baby at home. Like, let's play this out the right way. But yeah, I think I've just always been the same person. And if anything, I'm just as motivated to just provide the best life possible for my kid and my future kids. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of taking it day by day, enjoying every time. It makes being home and being in my routine that much more valuable, because I get to spend time with the baby and just kind of like live life with him. So yeah, it's a great time.
I wanted to ask about your training camp and about sharing knowledge. Like going into CJI, I know you said you had a variety of different minds there. How does that work from a training camp perspective? Like, how much do you think people are holding back because they don't want to give up this? Like, it's a weird dichotomy, right? Because you want to help your competitor, you want to get better, but you also, do you hold things back because you don't want your competitor to get so good? How do you surround yourself with people where you're all trying to level up, but at the end of the day, there might be a time where you're competing, you don't want to give them everything? How does that work in jiu-jitsu? I'm curious what your experience has been through something like that.
Well, I think we just at B Team, we have a very like we're kind of an open book. I think we all want each other to get as good as possible, because then it makes training that much more difficult. If we have guys coming up that are going to compete against each other, we'll probably, I think they'll separate for a little bit. They won't do as many rounds together. But at that point, you guys have trained together 100 times already. Like, you kind of know each other's game, with the exception of a few added tools, maybe. But I think I think if you're in the same weight class, there's another $1 million tournament. Like, you have the potential of seeing a fellow teammate there, and it is what it is. But I think I'm pretty confident that here at B Team, like, we want all of our guys to get as good as possible, gain as much knowledge as possible, just because it makes the training process much more difficult, and that's what we want. We want difficult training so we can continue to evolve throughout the years here.
Nicky, you mentioned training camps, and before you also mentioned, sometimes these tournaments come on quick. What does, for someone that like has no experience in the space, what does training look like when you're quote unquote not in a training camp? You don't necessarily have anything immediately coming on. And how does that change to, okay, I'm 12 weeks away, 8 weeks away from somewhere where there's a lot on the line? What does that look like?
Okay, so when I'm not training when I'm not in camp for competition, I'm just regular training. It's going to be once a day, Monday through Saturday. Sundays I'll take off, and yeah, the training is mainly focused on skill development and improving my overall game plan. So I'll do different things, like, and I'm not normally a guard puller, but maybe I pull guard. I have a bottom game. Maybe I play leg locks, or just things that aren't my best. Like, I self-analyze myself. I say, if I was to beat Nicky Rod, how would I do it? There's not a way to do it now, but I find my weakest points and kind of work upon those weakest points and go from there. And then when I'm in camp for competition, it's more just about sharpening the tools. I have 2 to 3 days a week where I'm treating it like competition. I'm sleeping, being more adamant about the sleep and the nutrition. Maybe I toss in a few extra workouts like cardiovascular endurance, muscle endurance, things like that. Stuff that Jason has helped me out with previously. And that's it. I just make the transition from developing skills or developing skills and techniques to then just sharpening the skills and techniques and being more persistent about the exact game plan that I'm going to use in competition.
Yeah, that was a good question, Gabe. I wasn't expecting to answer like that, Nicky, but I appreciate the fact that you're like, if I was trying to beat Nicky Rod, what would I do? And then you're trying to expose yourself to those positions. Dude, I got to tell you, you and your brother, man, it's funny. Tim Kennedy and I put out a YouTube video, like that was what, Gabe, like a couple months ago now, like maybe like, I don't know, 5 months ago, where we did grappling, shooting, and fitness. And there was some comments on there like, oh, Jason got his ass kicked. And people have no idea the level of jiu-jitsu from one black belt or one brown belt or one purple belt compared to another, depending on the school, the level, the pro, the this. Dude, you and B team are at such a different level than I think people have any idea about. Like you and your brother could basically do whatever the hell you wanted to me, taking my back. And it was so frustrating because I had no tools for you. And so I'm wondering at your level, how do you get better when well, I guess you answered it. It's like putting yourself in these bad positions. Is that really the way that you get better? Because you're better than almost everybody all the time. So how do you, as top grappler in the world, get better? Is it just intentionally doing those shitty positions? Is that what you have to do?
But a bunch of unfavorable positions. I also have phenomenal training partners I know where they're best at. So I play in that fire zone and that danger zone, and I'm able to develop my skills through there. And I'm always watching tape, asking questions to my peers, and we help each other get better like that. Because I'm great at my style. But when I analyze someone else's style, I'm like, and I try it, it's like, it's a bit weird for me because maybe I'm not used to being on my back. Maybe I don't pass in this certain way that this person passes. So just focusing on developing more new tools, new techniques is how I get better. And then, always reinforcing the things that you are best at, like the defense, like the attacks and passes that have been so reliable for me throughout the years.
When you're thinking about B team and like a leadership perspective, I'd like to think that you take a leadership role for B team, and B team's grown fast. And I imagine that a lot of money has came into the organization. You guys opened a gym, you guys have a podcast. I mean, there's just a lot. I'm curious, like, as that's evolved, what type of things are you and the B team crew doing to like communicate well? Say you're like aligned on a shared vision of like constant improvement. So I think there's lessons that people could take into their family life and then also in their business with what you guys are doing at B team, because you started off with a bigger crew. You guys kind of separated into two, but now, at least from the outside for the last couple of years, it seems like you guys are just locked in. Are you guys setting up what are you guys doing to keep it like that?
Yeah. Well, we have a consistent schedule of creating content, of making training not only extremely useful, but making it fun so that people enjoy learning, enjoy the process of getting better, because it's a physically challenging thing. It's mentally challenging as well. So we do a good job of making it difficult and making it very fun. And then we have consistent meetings. We discuss kind of especially this year, we discussed the 2025 vision, our specific goals for the gym and for our YouTube channel, social medias, etc. And the steps we also discuss the steps we're going to take in order to achieve these goals. And we just have a very
yeah. So Nicky, you're just talking about the fact that like you at B team, right? You guys come together, you guys set up your annual goals, you guys are talking about those type of things. I think you're being more kind of forward looking. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think we do a good job of just being transparent. Like, if there's any issues or curiosities that occur throughout the team, we talk about it, we solve it. That way we can continue to kind of do what we do. We're in an interesting predicament because there's really rarely multiple owners to a gym. We have 5, and we share the wealth, we share the progress. And because we have so many coaches and people alike, it makes it fun. Like, I look forward to going in and teaching and kind of giving my perspective on class, and we all teach our own different styles. Like, maybe sometimes I go into class and I talk to these guys about how to approach the match, not only physically but mentally as well, how you should be feeling, what you should be thinking about pre-match or pre-competition. So just kind of giving my own twist on the whole coaching thing. But yeah, I think just discussing our goals, being transparent of what we expect, our expectations throughout the year. I think that's really beneficial for us to just continue to stay a cohesive unit and grow together.
When you talk about coaching athletes, right? Because I know you're on the schedule. You guys all coach. When you're talking about mindset going into a competition, what types of things are you thinking about? Especially like if you're an entry-level grappler looking to get in your first competition, or maybe you've competed a few times, is there mantras? Is there things you say? Is there a game plan in preparation for these competitions? And then if so, does that change with when you're initially going into it versus match to match once you're already in the game?
Well, I think it's slightly different being like, if you're trying to be the best in the world, or if you're just trying to be a hobbyist or just compete well. I think at the basis of it, just have fun, right? Like, people try to win too much and they make it only about winning instead of about absolute best jiu-jitsu you can. I think if you just try to be the best version of yourself, the result will be whatever it's going to be. So just go out there, enjoy the moment. Not everybody gets to do this amazing thing, which is competing. And yeah, it's going to be nerve-wracking and whatnot, but that's part of it. Like, I think that too often people are like, oh, how do I stop the nerves? How do I stop the nerves? In my experience, being nervous is good. In fact, if you're not nervous, you should probably be worried. If you're nervous, I think it means that you're stronger, you're faster. It means your body is prepared for battle, prepared for the task at hand. So I think you use those nerves to benefit your end result, your end goal, which is ultimately winning. So yeah, people always try to stop the nerves, but let the nerves work towards your goals.
Let the nerves work towards your goals. I haven't heard it described like that before.
Yeah, I love that. I had a question going back to being a dad and your son. I'm super curious because I've seen this go one of two ways. Do you think that, like, as your son grows up, obviously the skill of grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, we recently had a guest on, was talking about how there's a lot more youth wrestling programs, but obviously he'll have access to Jiu-Jitsu. Obviously the skill makes total sense, but being a professional grappler, which obviously, there's a lot of sacrifice there. Is that something that you like thinking about what you want your son to grow up and do? Would you like encourage him to go that route? Like discourage it at all? Or like indifferent? Like, hey, if he ends up loving it, awesome. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Like, which way do you kind of fall on that?
I mean, obviously I feel like I would like him to be, a grappler of some sort, but yeah, I just want him to be the best in whatever he chooses. If it's to be a lawyer, if it's to be, one of my goals in life is to make enough money so that he can try everything. If he wants to drive F1, if he wants to do motocross, like, I'm gonna put him in everything, let him pick what he wants to do, and just kind of go. I feel like if you force too much of one thing on anybody, they're going to end up hating it. You give them an abundance of different experiences, and then they'll tether themselves to what they truly love, and kind of pick that. I'm finding out now, he's only 6 months, but he's pretty ambitious. Like, if I put a toy across the room, he's going to get to that toy, and that's a good sign for me. So yeah, I think he's got the platform, he's got the ability to do whatever he wants. So at the basis of it, just whatever it is that he decides to do, just be the absolute best at it.
That's awesome, man. I love that. Love that answer.
I want to ask you about your brother. You two are like tight, right? And dude, I imagine you guys spend a ton of time together. He lives with you. You guys grapple together. I don't know if he still, I assume he still lives with you. Like, how does that relationship, what type of advice do you have for someone listening who wants to, like, maybe develop their relationship a little bit further with their sibling, or develop their relationship, maybe even with their spouse? There's a lot of similarities, right? Obviously not the exact same, but a lot of similarities in terms of like this deep connection, right? You're spending a lot of time with them. You obviously have shared vision, shared moral. Like, what are you guys doing? I'll specifically about your brother, and then obviously I want to talk about your wife too, what you guys do. But what are you guys doing to keep that close bond, man? Because I've seen it in real life, and it's like, I don't know how you guys do it, because you have to be competitive when on the mats, but yet love each other off the mats and on the mats. It's just it's mind blowing to me. So what type of things do you guys do to retain that relationship the way it is?
Yeah, I think that we just we want the best for each other, but I also recognize that the competitive aspect of brothers is what kind of propels each other to do better. Like I even think that if we were closer in age or closer in size, like it would push us even, because it'd be much more competition. Like obviously bigger. I'm bigger. I'm a bit more knowledgeable because I've been in the sport longer. So there's kind of that aspect to it. But yeah, I don't know. Like growing up in wrestling, you see a lot of brother duos, and whenever you see the brother duos, they're always much better than the regular wrestlers, because they have that other person that wants to beat them. You're like, no, you're not going to beat me. So you have that, you're constantly competing, not just in the wrestling room, but just in life in general. I think that creates a very hard person, and a hard person to beat, just in general. So and then as far as the bonding aspect, like I don't know, I think we just like, we know how to shut off the competition. Maybe not really. I don't know. We compete in everything. Like if we're, I don't know, it makes it fun. Like if we're doing an extra workout where we're looking to get like like I sent Jason like a picture of like a 15-minute row, and like I was like, Jason, like see what you can get on this, and you kind of like, you kill those some calories. But like doing that with Jay is like, all right, we'll compete for this, and I don't know, I think it makes it fun. There's no like no animosity. Like we know that we just want to win whatever competition it is, whether it be on the mats or in the garage gym. And then, yeah, I think we just know how to shut off the competition, just to kind of sit down and have a meal, I guess.
Yeah, I want to ask too, like when you're having a meal, when you're sitting down, like now that you're newly married, new baby, just won $1 million, like, dude, you're unique in this perspective, right? All those things are evolving. Now, even though you've been with your wife for a while, are there things that like, are there conversations you've had to have with your wife in regards to like priorities, plans, anything like that? Like any kind of takeaways of things that you guys are working on the last 6 months that like, I guess takeaways for people, like you're in a unique situation. A lot of people, they get hit with these, things that all happen at once, and then you learn how to like tackle them one at a time and then move forward. Like, what are you guys doing in that sense to like, I don't know, make sure your relationship is solid while also achieving success in all these other areas that you're pursuing?
Yeah, I mean, I think they say you should always date like your lady spouse, whatever. So I don't know, we do a lot of stuff like on days that I'm not going to do an extra workout, we'll go get food, we'll go out and do stuff. I don't know. I feel like you can get stuck in your routine too much. Like go and work home. And then if you have a stay-at-home mom as a wife, you kind of can get lost that she's like kind of stuck there. So I think find different ways to stay busy and have fun, whether it's like go fishing or go shopping somewhere. As far as like, her duties, like she helps me out like with cooking, obviously taking care of the kid, and allocating the money towards the bills and things like that. So I don't have to worry about that stuff. But yeah, I think it just make it fun, don't be so stagnant and I don't know. I feel like people just are boring, and I'm not boring. I'm a doer. So if I want to do something, we'll make it happen. Like we did a road trip like maybe in November. It was like 3 weeks where we just like, I woke up and like a week before I was like, we should just do a road trip, and we left, and she was about it. We went to like New Mexico, we went to Moab, Utah, Yellowstone, Salt Lake City, and just like ran right up the middle there, had some fun, then came on. Obviously not everybody can do that because they have jobs and stuff, but try to go out of your way and just have some fun.
That's some good inspiration,
dude. And it's so important to hear that from someone that just had a kid, because a lot of the narrative out there is that like once you have kids you can't do any of that stuff, like you're stuck at home and like your sleep sucks and all that. And like, is it hard? I mean, I can speak to it. Of course it's hard. There were challenging nights. We have sick kids right now. Last night sleep wasn't great, but for the most part you can travel, you can make it work. You just have to be flexible and like lower your expectations that it's going to look exactly the same. It's not. But it's nice to hear that from someone else that just had a kid. But like you said, like life doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to stop. You can do it. Just go do it, and you'll figure it out. So I think that's really, really, really refreshing to hear.
I feel like if anything, you want your kids to have just as much fun and different experiences as you have. So to stay home all the time is kind of doing a disjustice. You want to get out there and let them experience the world. Like even at the young age of like 3 months when we were on the road trip, and 6 months now, like my son just being outside looking around, he's like, what is all of this? So it's pretty cool to see.
And for those people who don't do jiu-jitsu yet, Gabe Yanez, what would you recommend? How would you recommend if someone is interested in the sport of grappling, the sport of jiu-jitsu, for their kids and then for themselves, both? Where should they start? Right? Where's a good place for them to start?
Well, I think find a good local gym. It's going to be like a 10th Planet or Renzo Gracie or Gracie Baja, something like that. A local reputable gym. Go in there and just have fun. I mean, if you're, I don't know, you know what? Ask me the question one more time. I got this.
Yeah, like if you're trying to get into jiu-jitsu, where should you start for your kid and for yourself?
Well, I think I'm just going to repeat myself. Just find a reputable gym. I'd say Renzo Gracie, 10th Planet, or Gracie Baja, and just swing on by, have fun. It's gonna be probably nerve-wracking because it's a new experience, new people you're going to be meeting, and just have low expectations of of your success there. Like if you're a wrestler going there, great, you're gonna thrive right away. But if you're not really an athlete and you're going there just to learn, like just take it slow, take it day by day, and enjoy the process. Jiu-Jitsu is a very fun sport, especially it's becoming more professional, more Americanized now. So the no-gi stuff is taking off, and it's becoming more fast paced. Which people really like, that cardiovascular endurance part of the grappling. And I mean, just go for it. Take the risk and give it a shot.
Let me ask the two of you this. I'm curious because you mentioned, it Americanizing and no-gi taking off. Boil down the difference between gi, no-gi. Like what are some of even like the funny stereotypes of one versus the other? How different is the skill set? Which one maybe, and then my last question, which one translates better to like real world, like what you might encounter if shit goes down?
All right. I'll give my opinion. Real world, I would say no-gi is more realistic. Not everybody's going to have, pajamas on it. And then I would say no-gi's better for staying in shape. It's more cardiovascular endurance based. The grips, and the difference is the grips, obviously the uniform, the grips are different from gi to no-gi. And then I just know for a fact, no-gi is much more fun to watch. So that's the other reason that kind of the no-gi guys are making all the money, and there's not really any money in the sport of gi grappling.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think from a self-defense perspective. So, I mean, Gabe, to answer your question, like, dude, a gi is like a bathrobe, right? So you can grab onto it. You could use it to choke people. You can do all kinds of stuff. So if someone's wearing a jacket out on the street, it might be similar. But to Nicky's point, like, dude, the no-gi, you learn how to like have different types of grips on people that could translate whether they have clothes on or not, which is nice. But definitely the pace is night and day. So like for me, dude, in a gi, you could slow people down tremendously, especially if you hold them in certain positions. And no-gi, you can't do that as much, which is why I think it's blown up. So if I was recommending someone to get started though, I mean, Nicky, I don't know if you agree, but like, would you still say that like 80% of schools are probably still gi focused compared to no-gi, would you say? Like, what do you think the percentage is now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, it's probably close to 80 or 90% are gi dominant. In fact, the only two no-gi only schools are 10th Planet and then B Team Jiu-Jitsu. Essentially in the whole world, it's only those two. And yeah, but again, even though it's like 80 or 90% schools train mainly gi, all of the money is no-gi grappling. So it's kind of ironic. I feel like maybe the slow aspect for the hobbyist is why a lot of the hobbyists like the gi, or maybe it's the professors, the people that are teaching, the older black belts that are teaching jiu-jitsu. Let's say maybe the older Brazilian belts are teaching jiu-jitsu are really going to base their game off of the gi, because only in the past 5 or 6, 7 years has no gi really become much more popular than the gi grappling. So majority of the black belts that own schools are going to be, all of their 10 or 15 or 20 years of grappling was really only in the gi. So I think that's an aspect to it. I'm pretty confident that in the future, over the next 5 to 10 years, no gi as a hobbyist based sport will continue to grow much more.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I think it's just a legacy thing, right? It's like old school, a lot of these guys that came up with the gi, so they're comfortable with this, they teach the gi. And then guys like you, right, are coming forward with more no gi. And if you're seeing now, even in some kids wrestling, I don't know if you've seen this yet, Nicky, but some in kids wrestling, instead of using a singlet like they used to, some of them are doing rash guard and shorts. And so you're seeing this evolution occur in the sports of grappling. And it's super exciting, man. I can't wait to see where it goes, especially for guys like you that are the forefront of what is occurring. So yeah, anyways, I think the gi, no gi, it's a good little kind of riff back and forth. But I think the answer that most people would say, unless you're trying to like make, growth and money like Nicky and his team, most people do both. Many people do both, I think, is kind of general. Yeah. I wanted to ask you before we kind of close out here, Nicky, like, what's going on with your nutrition? Has anything changed in the last like 6 months or a year? Anything changed at all in that regard? And then what is like, do you eat different when you're getting ready for a competition, or do you just eat the same all throughout the year?
So yeah, my diet's changed pretty tremendously over the past 6 months or a year. I had blood work done and my cholesterol, my ferritin was pretty high. And that's mainly because I eat a bunch of red meat, or I was eating a bunch of red meat. So I cut the red meat out. I mainly eat chicken and fish, which is pretty subpar to like a ribeye steak, but you got to do what you got to do. I eat a bunch more vegetables now. I'm going to get blood work done again. Merrick Health is going to take care of my blood work. So we'll go get that checked out pretty soon. And we should be good to go. But when I get closer to competing, I absolutely do eat more red meat. I like the way I feel. My whoop strap says I have better recovery when I eat red meat. So yeah, I mean, I love a good ribeye, a steak when I'm getting ready to compete. I think that's it's the best. It's very nutrient dense for me, and it tastes the best. So I like the texture of it, and I miss it. I haven't had steak in a long time, and I miss it every day. But gotta get my cholesterol under control. So we're doing that.
Gabe, do you ever? Your cholesterol was fine, right? We just got our blood work back. I think both of our cholesterol was okay, right?
Mine was high prior to this last time. It runs in my family. My mom's had issues with it. My dad has had issues with it, and they both eat well, exercise. We're just, predisposed to it. But this last time, I was able to lower it. The total was like around 250 or over 2. Like it was high. It was high. It wasn't like borderline high. It was like, you should probably lower this. But now I got it back in the normal range. Mostly. Honestly, I was pretty big on the carnivore kick for a while, which I know works for some people, but I just had to bring that stuff down a little bit. And I don't do anything crazy now. I feel like I have a pretty balanced diet, but that tends to work. I just think I was overdoing the saturated fat before. Yeah,
they say some people observe much more saturated fat and iron than other people, and I think that's kind of that might be me, a normal 8-ounce steak for somebody, they maybe digest a bunch of it, but I probably hold on to a much more saturated fat and iron than others. And same kind of ordeal runs in my family. Like my, I have my grandparents, great grandparents have high cholesterol, and stuff like that, but they live long. So I don't know.
Dude, well, I think that it brings up a good point, right? Whether it's through Merrick Health or a company that we partner with called Blokes, getting your blood work done is critical, because if you don't have a measure to go off of, right, you would never even know to make a change. So you got to check it out underneath the hood. Even if you're Nicky Rod, getting that feedback, I think, is really important. So what's the next couple of months, man? I mean, I know you might have a competition coming up. You got CJI again in August, which, dude, I had forgot it was a team thing until you just mentioned it. I am so excited about that. I'm so excited because if you go and you go up against another team and you sub everybody, I feel like you should get some like triple something. I don't know. You should get something. But aside from CJA, is there anything else coming up that, just kind of letting people know, like, hey man, you got a tutorial, you got an instructional coming out. You got anything kind of lined up in the next like month or two that we should know about?
I have a seminar in North Carolina, I believe early February. So you guys can click the link in my bio in my Instagram page to check that out. All of my instructionals are on my Instagram page, link in the bio. And subscribe to the B Team Jiu-Jitsu YouTube channel. We're closing in on 500,000 subscribers. So we appreciate the support. And be sure to keep an eye out. I'll be competing soon, and the CGI is coming soon as well.
Dude, we'll make sure to put your Instagram link in the podcast show notes. And I just want to say thank you, man. Especially having a new baby, competing at the highest level, being the $1 Million Grappler, you got a lot of really amazing things going on. And I've known you for a long time, and it's really cool to see you thriving. And it's well deserving, man. It really is. And I just hope it continues for everybody in your family and for all of B Team. So thanks for taking the time to be on the show. And man, I really, really appreciate it. I hope you get after it for later on today.